Prepare your ears, humans. Happy, Sad, Confused begins now.
Today on Happy, Sad, Confused, Bill Skarsgård on villains and playing a villain in It, Chapter 2. Hey guys, I'm Josh Horowitz. Welcome to another edition of Happy, Sad, Confused, my little old podcast with big-time guests like Bill Skarsgård. Welcome to the show. Apologies first off if you're a devoted listener. Maybe you've noticed, wait, where's the podcast been the last couple weeks? I pride myself on almost never taking a week off. But man, it's been busy. I was just in Toronto Film Festival, my annual trek up north to see 20-ish films. I don't know. Do a ton of interviews for MTV. So all that being said, apologies for being dark the last couple of weeks. The good news is we're back in a big way with a great young actor, Bill Skarsgård, currently appearing in two films, and a lot more really great guests I'm super excited for coming up in the next little while. I don't think we'll be taking another week off for a long while. So first to catch up, Toronto Film Festival just wrapped up. I saw, like I said, probably 20 plus movies, some before the festival, some during the festival. Honestly, there was almost nothing I didn't like there. I saw a lot of solid movies. I don't know what, if anything, jumped out as a movie that I fell passionately in love with as the film of the year for me. That being said, often those kind of films take a minute to digest for me, and maybe coming around on the second viewing, then I kind of realize how much I love it. I did see Parasite. Parasite's probably my favorite movie of the year thus far. That's Bong Joon-ho, who you may know as the filmmaker of Snowpiercer and Okja. His new film is I would say actually a masterpiece, and it's one of those that the less you know going in, the better. I also saw Knives Out, which is a blast. Rian Johnson's new ensemble whodunit. I saw The Lighthouse, which is this atmospheric, crazy black and white film with Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. I enjoyed that. Jojo Rabbit is Taika Waititi's latest bit of insanity, a satire set in World War II, featuring some great performances, including Taika knows how to direct kids, I have to say. They're fantastic in it. Ford v Ferrari, James Mangold, we love him around here. His new film starring Christian Bale and Matt Damon. Bale is very much likely back in the Oscar hunt for this one. And Joker, which was the hot ticket at Toronto, I very much enjoyed. We're going to be talking about Joker the next few months. That's just the reality. It's gotten some divisive reviews. I am definitely in the pro camp. Joaquin Phoenix is remarkable in it. The production design, it's certainly Todd Phillips' most well realized film in terms of from a filmmaking standpoint. It is certainly very much in the key of old-time Scorsese. It is a Joker film by way of Taxi Driver. There's no way around it. It is a dark, depressing, sad movie, a character study of a guy that, is more Travis Bickle than comic book character. So I'm so curious about all the think pieces that are going to come, but I'm also already weary of them, to be honest. But yeah, that's our reality. We're going to be talking about Joker for a while, and I do think Joaquin, at the very least, is going to be in the awards hunt, and maybe the film itself. I don't know. I'll be curious to see how audiences receive it. As for the guest today, I do want to talk a little bit about Bill Skarsgård. Bill Skarsgård, of course, as Pennywise. He is this career-altering performance for him that he landed, I think, when he was 25 or 26. And he has played Pennywise in the last two It films, It and It Chapter 2, which is currently in theaters, making $1 gajillion. Such a fascinating, unique trajectory for a young actor. I was saying to him before when he was in here, you don't think of leading men type actors in their 20s getting their breakout roles in something like this. I joked that this is like Tom Cruise breaking out by playing Freddy Krueger. It just doesn't happen this way. So because of that, though, I'm also just endlessly fascinated by what Bill's career is going to be. He's a tall, good-looking dude, like his brother, Alexander Skarsgård. So he can play those kinds of roles, but now he's already shown that he can be this weird character type actor with a performance like Pennywise. So for that reason alone, I'm thrilled that he was here and we got a chance to chat. I first met Bill as I reminisced with him in a random, I was on the set of Allegiant, that kind of forgotten Divergent sequel. He had a small part in that, and to see his trajectory since then, where he was just kind of starting to find his way just a few years back in Hollywood movies, and to see where he's at now is really cool. He's really actually the real reason he came in, as much as it is nice to talk about, is his new film Villains, which is out September 20th, which I very much enjoyed. It's gotten great reviews. It played at South by, 2 enthusiastic responses. It's basically a 4-character story, kind of a thriller, kind of a black comedy. I was going to say Alexander. Bill and Micah Monroe play robbers who kind of find themselves in over their heads when they meet another couple who may be even more dangerous than they are, played by Jeffrey Donovan and Kira Sedgwick. A fun, weird little genre movie that deserves your love. Villains comes out this Friday. What else to mention? Oh, of course we were plagued. It was as if the Stephen King gods, the horror gods descended upon us during this conversation. For some reason, some fire alarm went off and there's a beeping in the background and it was driving me insane, but we trudged through because you never know how long those things are going to go. So I apologize. I'll try to edit around it, but I think it's going to be completely impossible. So if you hear a beeping in the background, suffer through it just like Bill and I did. He's a professional. We're all professionals. Let's just get over it. The important thing is the conversation was great, and he was a delight. Of course, and I should mention, because I sometimes take for granted what people do or don't know, I mentioned that Bill is Alexander Skarsgård's brother, former guest on the podcast. He's also the son of Stellan Skarsgård, one of the great character actors. You've seen him in 1,000 things, from Good Will Hunting and Hunt for Red October. He's just everything. Chernobyl recently. He's fantastic. So when we're talking about his dad, that's who we're talking about. Okay, that's the preamble. Let's get on to the big show. Remember to review, rate, and subscribe to Happy, Sad, Confused. Spread the good word, and I hope you guys enjoy this chat with Bill Skarsgård. Should we have a chat?
Yeah,
we're here. You got coffee. You're waking up. Hopefully, me too. I'm a little slow. You haven't had a crazy press tour because thankfully they kind of keep you behind the scenes.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's been. I have had nonstop 2 weeks.
Yeah,
3 premieres and everything. So
it's the pluses and minuses.
This is the last thing I do today.
Oh, nice. Okay, so one last.
No, not this. This is the first thing of the day, but it's the last. See, my brain is fucking toast. It's the last thing I do.
Okay.
Of the tour, so I fly back tonight, and so today's the last day.
Excellent. The finish line is in sight. I'm a little fried myself. I was just in Toronto for the film festival, so
I
saw 20 movies in 5 days. So I'm I feel
Did you do a bunch of podcasts there as well?
Not podcasts, but yeah, I did on-camera stuff for MTV. So yeah, I think the last time I saw you was probably at Comic-Con, where we had that suite, where we bring people in.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's the same kind of thing. That's my my Toronto, which is basically wall-to-wall interviews, but then I jam in a movie or two in the beginning or the end of the day. So,
what did you see?
So I saw, I saw Knives Out, which is awesome.
Oh, cool.
The new Rian Johnson. I saw Parasite, the new Bong Joon-ho movie. The guy did Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
I've heard great stuff about it. Yeah.
What else? Jojo Rabbit is crazy but good.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot. Is there anything in particular you're excited for this fall? Are you
I'm really curious about the Joker film because I'm such a big Joaquin fan.
I saw it.
How would you think?
No, I liked it.
Yeah.
I did. I honestly did. That's how fried my brain is. I can't even think of the most anticipated film.
Exactly.
I will have you know, I asked everybody, I had a stupid, silly runner with every interview, and I was like, clowns are in right now, so who's better boyfriend material, Joker or Pennywise? How do you think they answered, Bill?
I don't know.
You lost big time.
Yeah.
It's not you, though. It's Pennywise.
It is, yeah.
I guess apparently murdering children is a turnoff for a boyfriend.
Yeah. Have a creepy stalker is probably better.
Right. Exactly. It's the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
This is history on the podcast. We've We've had father-daughter combos. We've had father-sons. This is the first brothers. You've completed the Alexander-Bill duo. So thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, cool,
today,
man. Yeah. Now you only have 6 more to go.
I was going to say, how many more do I have?
6 brothers and then, or 6 other siblings. Yeah. Then you get, well, it was all 8.
Maybe for the next one, I'll just have all 6 in at the same time to kill a lot of birds with one stone.
8. 8 of us.
Oh my God. You're here for a couple of reasons. I mean, it obviously has already made $1 gajillion, so that needs a little bit less love. But you have this great new film called Villains as well, which I really enjoyed, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
So this one, does something like it give you license to kind of like go off and do, because this is not, I wouldn't say a hard sell, but it's like an odder kind of a film. Like it's a thriller comedy, black comedy kind of a thing. Did this come, I assume, after the first It, or?
Yeah. And I want to say I was shooting Castle Rock, a TV show for Hulu, which is also inspired by the Stephen King universe, and the character I was playing there was very dark and gloomy and not the just tormented man thing. So you're like, let me do something cheery like this. This is the version of cheery, Bill. Well, I mean, the script came along, and the even though the topic, if you describe the topic of this movie, it sounds like the darkest, most horrific story ever. But this couple getting trapped in a house, been tormented by the owners of it. But the script is obviously really funny, and the character is very like lovable, and he's like this lovable, enthusiastic idiot. And I was like, oh man, like this.
That's kind of what I need right now.
Yeah, like like I haven't done too much comedy, and like you said, it's hard to kind of define this genre or the genre of this film, but it is very much comedic, and the role is very much comedic. So and it was a great script and great story, and it always read like a stage play a little bit. This kind of four-hander.
It's basically it's 4 actors and a great quartet of actors.
Yeah,
it's you and Micah, of course, Jeffrey Donovan and Keira Sedgwick.
Yeah.
Does that kind of let you get into the nitty-gritty a little bit more, where it's basically 4 people in a house essentially for 90% of the film?
Yeah, I mean, the casting was pretty much everything in it as well. It was a big part of it. It's like if the 4 actors that you end up spending the whole time with watching the movie, if that doesn't work, if the chemistry between the actors doesn't work, the film wouldn't work. So we actually did have, which is fairly uncommon for indie movies, but we had like a full week of rehearsals before we started shooting. So like every day we would just sit and rehearse and talk about the script and talk about character details, and Jeff and Keira and obviously and great seasonal actors, and then Micah as well. So we kind of everybody came with their fun little quirky ideas for who to kind of flesh out these characters that were already great on the page, but there was so much that you could little details that you could add. My characters had a bunch of tattoos, and like what are they going to look like, and designing those, and the outfits are all like everything is kind of like over the top. I think Jeff actually described it very well, and when he said during the rehearsals, and he was like, I think that this movie should be north of reality and south of farce.
I think you hit it. I think you hit it then.
Yeah, he did. So, which was like that's exactly the tone of the movie. It is over the top, and but there's also obviously kind of these undertones of real emotional moments in it. So.
Sure. I also like that. Like I always admire. Look, I mean, like yourself, I've watched like 10,000 movies by now. Any movie that can surprise me a little bit, where like if maybe the less said about the plot, the better. But like suffice it to say, the movie starts and you're like, oh, I'm watching like Natural Born Killers or something. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, I'm in misery. To go back to Stephen King.
Exactly.
Did that play on the page too, where like when you're reading it, you're like, oh shit, this is going.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the thing about like when you get a script sent to you, you don't know really anything about it. And there's nothing like that first time experience, which is what obviously a lot of the moviegoers will experience the first time they see it. They don't know where the movie's going. And trailers are good, but they can kind of ruin films sometimes. And this is one of those movies which I think plays absolutely the best. If you don't know what's going to happen. You haven't seen the trailer.
Yes,
because it's exactly that. I mean, it starts off with this kind of these young lovers, a couple, me and Micah, and they're robbing a gas station, and you're like, oh my god, like these kind of crazy over the top, characters are like hitting the road.
Yep.
They're escaping something, and they're going towards something else. So it's kind of the movie starts sort of in the middle of a story,
yes.
And then without spoiling it too much, they hit a little speed bump along the way.
I feel like the best example of that, it just came to me, of like a film that like way back when threw me. The best possibility was From Dusk Till Dawn. Remember that one?
Oh yeah.
Where similarly, it's like a crime film at first,
yeah.
and then that one, like the structure's a little different, but like halfway through, you're like, oh wait, I'm in like a crazy vampire horror.
yeah, no, 100%, yeah.
This was at South by. Did you go to South by, or were you?
I couldn't go because I was shooting a film in Alabama at the time. Unfortunately I couldn't go. So we had a screening of it, a little fan screening of it yesterday at the Regal on Essex, and it was the first time I saw the movie with an audience, and the movie really plays best with an audience. It's one of those things, where there's a lot of laughs and gasps and everything, and feeling the energy of the crowd was great.
Yeah, I should say it's getting great reviews. I mean, if you follow things like Rotten Tomatoes, it's like 90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, good. So cool. That's cool. Yeah.
So wait, are you living in New York now? Because I remember way back when you. So I don't know. You probably don't remember this. The first time we met, of all places, was on the set of Allegiant in a weird van, and you were telling me at the time, you were like, "I think I'm moving to New York, and I'm moving with my brother."
Yeah.
And I'm curious. So did you end up here, or are you here, or what?
No,
what
I did. Well, no. Life took a turn, but at that time, this would have been 2015.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
So like I didn't know what I was doing after we finished Hemlock Grove that I shot for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And the show was done, so I was like, all right, what are we doing? And me and my best friend Landon were like, all right, let's. And he's from Canada, and we're like, let's do New York. Let's see what that's like. So we did 6 months and never came back.
What, New York wasn't for you?
No, man, I'm kidding. I just absolutely love it. It's just other things happened, and which sort of now I have a family and we live in Stockholm, so that kind of my like 6 months in New York kind of overlapped with meeting my girlfriend and
oh wow, so that was a pivotal time. You had a very pivotal time.
Yeah, so that's just kind of how for me at least it seems like life goes when you try to plan something and
the old John Lennon
exactly right. It just the more you plan, the less you know about what it's going to be.
Do you think Stockholm will always be either the primary home or half the year or whatever? Or
half year maybe. Like I don't know. Like there's Stockholm is really dark and depressing. Like maybe not 6 months out of the year, but a good solid 3. Yeah, man. Like I think growing up there, the winters, not so much the weather, like the coldness. It's not too much worse than a New York winter, but it's though the darkness just really gets to you, man.
Yeah.
So like, the way I've sort of orchestrated my life in the past couple of years have just been. December could be nice. It's like you light candles, and it's Christmas time, and the darkness kind of plays into all of that. And then as soon as January comes around, and you're like, oh, I don't want 3 more months of this.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, we're figuring it all out. But for now, we have an apartment in Stockholm, and
got it.
Her family's there, my family there. So yeah.
Nice. All right, so let's go back for a second if we could. So let's talk about little Bill Skarsgård. It was a long time since you were little, probably before the growth spurt. By the way,
mine was a leg growth spurt. So
was it really?
I was like there's the shortest guy of my group of friends when we were like 16.
I was going to ask, are there any short gentlemen in your family? Are they all like 6'3" and over, basically?
On my dad's side, they're all tall. My mom is probably average height, but they're shorter, and my uncle's is shorter. So like my mom's brother, and so, everyone on my dad's side, and then everyone in my family, obviously, are tall. Like I'm like the shortest one.
The runt of the litter, Bill. Not really.
We're about the same height, but like yeah. Like
so was that a relief at 16 that you got the growth spurt? You're like, finally, here we go.
Oh yeah, man. Like I don't know if were you a late
Well, I'm
bloomer?
obviously 7'3" right now.
Sure,
so I've been...
still like being a young man and late into puberty. That's a tough
psychological
it's
cost.
tough, man. Yeah. And like I
think you
your voice hasn't
I was
dropped.
just gonna say, I think your voice just cracked when you were talking about it. It's tough, dude.
Yeah, come on, man.
Leave me alone. I'll grow up when I want to.
I'll be tall one day. You'll see. Yeah. So when I started growing, it couldn't have come sooner for me.
So when did you realize Dad was something of a big deal growing up, especially back home? I guess when you were probably, if I'm doing the math, when you were like 8 or 9 is when he starts to do the big U.S. stuff, like the big American films, Good Will Hunting, etc.
Yeah. And it's like as a kid, you don't care or know anything about your dad's sort of career, or if it's like, oh, I guess my dad's career is taking off now. I mean, you just don't.
You're just reading the trades at 8. You're like, hey, just signed exactly. For Amistad. It's going to be great for us.
No, Spielberg, cool. But yeah, so you're probably right. I mean, I remember he shot Good Will Hunting in Toronto, and that's one of the movies that I remember. We all went with him, we all stayed in Toronto for the entire shoot, and I would have been like 6 or something, and I think that's kind of where it started, and then for the next 3 or 4 years, we would just go with him wherever he would shoot, which is amazing as a kid because, my mom was helping us out, like tutoring us, so she got like the download of what we were doing in school, and so we would do that. Like we would have like 2 or 3 hours of school every day, and then just like be able to do whatever we want. And when we came back home to Stockholm, we were always like way ahead of the other class members because classmates, because you just. I guess you can if you really intensify your school day, you can do it in 2 hours.
That's the lesson of this. Like they just pad it out.
Yeah,
well, it's basically daycare. That's the secret of grade school.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah. No, it was fun. It was great. And then as we sort of got older and became teenagers, obviously we had to sort of stay around and stick around for school, and school got more serious. But yeah, it was a couple of years there. It was just great, like going to see all these exotic places like Toronto.
Doesn't get more exotic than Toronto.
No, but we lived in Mexico for a bit.
Amazing.
Cambodia in 2002, which is like only backpackers at that point. It was like before tourism had Cambodia, and just seeing all these places as a kid is so amazing. Like these different cultures, and also like Sweden is such a well functioning and privileged little country that being exposed to these sort of third world countries and how they live and
no, it's invaluable.
It's so invaluable. And just it's humbling, and I think it just you probably makes you a better person for
Definitely.
it.
Yeah. And what about the atmospheres of those actual sets? Does anyone stick out as an indelible memory where because it seems to me like your dad clearly has loved what he's done, and that he must have imparted that, whether consciously or unconsciously, onto you guys. Did any of seeing him in that element really make an impact on you as a kid, you think? Do you think subconsciously it sort of ingrained itself in?
Yeah. I mean, like, I always just, I took an instant liking to film sets, as a kid. And I think a lot of kids just intuitively understand what a film set is because it's weird.
Play, so
it's
there's
play,
that.
It's play and pretend, and that's pretty much all a kid is doing with his friends. So being able to you were exposed to like all these grown people grown-ups dressing up and pretending to be other people, and everything from like scenes where they would have guns and they were shooting, and obviously that's cool for a kid being around, to like a shark biting his arm off in Deep Blue Sea, and you get to see, oh, there's a big robotic shark, like how cool is that? All these different things. It's just really left an impression on me for sure.
And when you think back, what were your film tastes as a kid, and how did they develop? Like, you had a bunch of older siblings? Did they influence your love of certain kinds of films? Did you have?
Yeah, and my dad did too, man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we would, we would watch movies together, like on Friday night, and like me and my dad would just watch movies, and we'd watch like Kurosawa, and like, and he would like, you would watch it and it's subtitled, and so if I was like 7 or 8, I couldn't keep up with the subtitles, so he would just pause and he would explain everything that's happening,
Yeah.
and it kind of made for an even better viewing experience.
Yeah, you
as
got
a kid.
like the director's comment, you got the actor's commentary on these classics.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Here's
right.
what Kurosawa was going for here.
Yeah, and like Seven Samurais was like one of those movies that like really like left a big impression on me. I remember, and then I was a huge James Bond fan, like as a kid growing up, like watching like all the old Sean Connery ones, and it's just yeah. So and like of course like the more, but like being exposed to it, my dad was like he didn't want us to watch like I wasn't allowed to watch like Power Rangers because he thought it was just like glorifying violence.
Amazing.
But whereas like Seven Samurais I could watch, which is like extremely violent, but it's not
arty.
it's arty, and it's portraying violence in a more realistic manner, and not pretending that you can kick someone in the face 200 times. So
I love it. So you're like watching like Lars von Trier before you're watching Star Wars, basically. I like to imagine that you call Lars von Trier Uncle Lars. That's my image of the Skarsgård family.
Uncle Lars. Yeah, and then and try to watch like a lot of the films that my dad was in as well. My dad, so when his career took off in the 90s, because he's a foreign actor with an accent, he played the bad guy in every role he did, and he got killed in every movie he was in. So I don't know if that's therapeutic, but like by the time I was 10, I'd seen my dad die probably 10 different times in 10 different ways.
Here he goes again. Yeah. How are they going to do it this time?
Yeah. And as a kid, you're always rooting for your dad as well. You're like, come on. Even if when he's a bad guy, you're like, come on, don't. Shit, he got killed in this one too.
That's this is why you ended up as Pennywise. You needed retribution.
Yeah, exactly.
This is for Dad.
Yeah. It doesn't go too well for him either, though.
No, that's true. In the end, spoiler. So when do you get serious about acting? I mean, it's the filmography kind of picks up around when you're 17 and 18. It seems like, is that sort of when you kind of decided I'm going to really make a go of this?
Yeah, that was probably around the time where I started like identifying as like a professional actor, and which was because it was my profession. I started working at it, and I started like making a living out of it. And but yeah, there's these two movies I did sort of back to back when I was 18, 19.
Right.
One was called Behind Blue Skies, and the other one was called A Simple Simon. And I remember, the Behind Blue Skies one was the first kind of a real lead I did, and a amazing sort of coming of age story. And I had to audition for it 8 times, and I don't know why Hannah's the director was like not convinced, but he came to a premiere of this kind of a comedy that I had done where I was playing a supporting part, and I remember gathering the courage after 2 beers after the after party, and and sort of charging the director and being like, Hannes, listen, I've auditioned 5 times for this thing already, and like nobody can do this role better than I can. Like I speak, this character speaks to me. I understand this guy, and and I really went into this preacher mode, and then on the 6th audition the following week, he was like, remember what you told me at the premiere? I was like, yeah.
Kind of.
He's like, well, anyways, you were saying some good stuff there, because like I think for a lot of directors, like when you try to find sort of at the time this kind of undiscovered performer for the role, and it's also like, oh, he comes from this family, but can he actually do it? Right. And this kind of thing. But to hear someone like I got so passionate about the project and the role, and seeing for director to kind of, I guess, hear that made an impression on him, and then eventually finally he decided that I was good enough to do the role. But and then that whole experience was just so amazing for me. It really was, and it changed everything. It changed like my approach to acting in a lot of ways, and it also really made me dedicate myself to want to do this for a living. And then the movie I did right back, like the back-to-back ones, the one I did right after that one was A Simple Simon, which is this like romantic comedy where I play a character with Asperger's syndrome. And so that was like I really went with the character, and it's this kind of quirky movie that we did with half a budget, and I think like the average age on the film crew is like 27 or something, and that's like that's including everyone in the movie, right. Like the actors as well as the crew members. So it was just like basically all these kids,
figuring it out as you go,
figuring it out as we go.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of that film too, and everyone that made that film. But so those things, those 2 roles back to back really made me like completely fall in love with filmmaking and acting.
And then it's off to the races. And then I guess you get the closest thing to kind of a steady gig, which is you do Hemlock for a few years, Hemlock Grove, which it was a Netflix series before. It was cool to be a Netflix series.
Yeah, we were number 2. I think we went into production a month after House of Cards.
Right.
So yeah, it was actually kind of funny because I booked that thing, and Netflix at the time was not in Sweden. So I came home, and my friends were like, oh yeah, you booked something? Yeah, I booked this this TV show, and where's it at? Well, it's on Netflix. And they're like, what's Netflix? Well, it's kind of like Spotify but for film. Oh, so it's a web series. Yeah, well,
just trust me. In 5 years, it will rule the planet.
Exactly.
Just go with it.
Yeah.
So where are you at then? Like, give me a snapshot of where you were when it came around. Like, were you happy with the career? Were you sort of like, what kind of roles were you going up for? What were you after? And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did Hemlock for 3 years, and a lot of kind of problematic things went into that production. But it was for me, it was just an amazing experience, and just a schooling in acting in English, and acting, playing an American character, and all these different things. We finished that, and I did the Divergent thing. I did a little role in that, and so I was like, okay, well, where's my career going, and what's the next thing? And I always try to be as picky as I can, and I want at least something about the project that really inspires me to wanting to make it, and then the audition for Pennywise was sort of floating around in LA,
right?
Seems like half the city auditioned for it, I think.
Well, I was going to say that's the fascinating thing about it for many reasons. Is like it was like they're looking at women, they're looking at different ages, different body types.
Yeah, yeah.
like when you went in there, did you know what kind of a thing they were looking for, or was
Not
it kind
at
of
all.
like just what's your interpretation of what your
Yeah,
Pennywise would be?
exactly. Not at all. And they were auditioning. There was no type really. Like anyone, like there's no rule for what Pennywise is or looks like. So yeah, there's women auditioning for it, and middle-aged men, and 26-year-olds. So I didn't know, but I just got the scene, and weirdly enough, actually, I mean, looking back at it, it was the storm drain scene. So
Yep.
Which is obviously an iconic scene already that you know from the book and you know from the TV show. So I was like, oh, cool! Like I can get to do something with that scene, and I just remember really enjoying the process of figuring out what this character is, and for me, for the audition itself, I was just like, oh, I can do whatever I want,
Right.
What's the voice like, or da 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 da, like what's the face, what's the smile, how creepy is he, and like how good is he of trying to lure the kid in, and when does he turn really bad in this scene? I mean, there's a lot of moments in the scene where it's like, okay, because part of it is also he's kind of almost
He's
having
luring him
fun
in.
and luring him in and all that stuff as well. But I had absolutely no expectations that I would book it, and at the time, like I was fairly unestablished, so just had really fun with the audition. Went in there, did something fun that I thought was cool, and then left it at there, and being like, all right, we'll see where it goes, but probably not gonna hear back from them, and then sure enough, 5 auditions later, I booked it.
I'm noticing a theme here in your career.
Yeah, exactly.
I've heard you talk about how like it was a process even in the production. Like you felt like you did that storm drain scene, the last scene on the first scene of the first film, and how even finding the voice took a while even during production.
Yeah.
So like I'm just curious, when you were in the audition, like what was your voice? Like what was the runner-up voice that you were still working on to Pennywise?
Yeah, I think the voice was more human, if that makes sense. Initially, like it was more like a more a human sort of approach to it. So it was more of a guy, and less of this kind of demon thing, or yeah, and then because the first time I read for it, you're just you, and so you there's no makeup, there's no nothing, and
right.
So I want to remember the voice being more.
Oh my God!
What was that?
It's just a normal fire alarm in the middle of a podcast. Totally typical.
It's Pennywise. Lies. Oh, there we go.
We're gonna power through this together.
Yeah. But yeah. So like, I mean, I have. I have voice recordings and I film myself, and I have all that stuff left still. So maybe at some point it will get released, and you'll see the old takes and kind of the 10 different steps of ending up with what the character ended up becoming. But yeah, so once I booked the role, Andy and I sort of sat down in Toronto, and we just like explored everything really, and I had an idea of this like really kind of high pitchy thing that we were exploring, and then we explored sort of like more like baritone, gravelly thing. And I think what ended up becoming the voice is a blend of those two. So like you can the character does go like woo-ah, this kind of thing, and then sometimes it's dialed down here. So we and those fun playing around with those different ranges. And
how many voicemails exist of you doing your Pennywise voice for friends, family, yourself?
I don't think I left a lot of voicemails, but I remember I spent so much time in the whole get up, you know, and the makeup and everything. And the first, you know, 5 or 10 times I had that thing on, I was like very, very serious, and you know, in my trailer, filming myself doing different scenes and trying to figure out what the makeup looked like and how it translated, but the more I worked and the more, you know, comfortable I got in it, and the more bored I got from just sitting around for hours and hours on set waiting around as you do. I would just, you know, I would FaceTime everybody that I could think of, and they just get, you know, people from like my friends from back home or family in Stockholm would just go like, "Oh, Bill's calling me from Toronto," and then they, you know, answer, and Pennywise is there.
Just anything to amuse yourself, basically, at a certain point.
Yeah, and I also just like I made these like little just videos of myself as Pennywise or in the Pennywise getup, but just like. There's this one scene in the first movie where I have this wig on, like long hair, and it's the scene from the projector where like the hair is covering the mother's face, and then it starts revealing, and Pennywise is there. So what we had on there was like actually like the hair was down to my like shoulders, like this long wig for that specific scene, but I was walking around with Pennywise with like hair down to his chest, and that
was his hippie phase. That was
his hippie phase. So I was like, oh, like I just thought it was so funny because I was like, hey man, what's going on, dude? Like he's like this guy, like this surfer man, like whoa, far out, what's going on? So like this is like this like bohemian, you know, like Venice skater guy.
Yeah, Pennywise at Ridgemont High, basically.
Yeah. And I was like, I would just film myself doing that and send it to friends and stuff like that. So like. As you do when you know you have, you know, too much time on your hands on a film set. Apparently,
the word on the street is that your brother is now getting on the Stephen King villain game. Did he give you the heads up that he's going to do Randall Flagg?
Is that official?
That's the news as broke yesterday.
Well, good. Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, he's entering the second most iconic villain maybe after Pennywise. So he'll get silver.
That's amazing.
No, but yeah, it's great. I mean, I think Randall Flagg is truly the second most iconic Stephen King villain. So I think it's a really cool casting choice, and I think Alex can do something really fun with that role. So yeah, and I met Stephen King for the first time the other day. I was doing Good Morning America, and he was on there to promote his new book. Yeah. So he's in the green room next to me, and I was like, oh my god, like Stephen King. Like, yes, Stephen's here, and you know he wants to meet you. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, hi, Stephen. And he goes, and as I'm walking in, he goes, thank you for putting my grandchildren through college. And I was like, well, thank you for putting my grandchildren through college.
right back at you, buddy. That's amazing.
Yeah, and you know, and you know, I was like, oh, so I hear my brother Alex is you know, doing Randall, and Stephen was like, yeah, we're so excited to have him on board. So
that's awesome.
It's really cool, and I really can't wait to see what they do with it.
I mean, one thing that you know, I know you've talked about that's like fascinating to me is, you know, as we said, this isn't like the normal path for someone your age, like for the big break role. You know,
no.
You know, Tom Cruise didn't do Freddy Krueger to explode onto the big screen.
Yeah, exactly.
But it opens up such a world of opportunity for you, I think, right? Like you've now kind of like thrown out the gauntlet to show like I can transform, I can be what you need me to be. Does that feel freeing right now, and is that reflective in the kinds of roles that you're going up for, that you're seeing more than the kind of, because, you know, frankly, for someone in their late 20s, a lot of the roles are kind of boring. They're kind of just like straight arrow heroes.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right, and I do think that as like a male actor, you tend to have like there's a lot of great roles in your like late teens and into your sort of mid 20s, where you play these sort of coming of age stories, these like, you know, young guys, and there's like that it's that genre of like coming of age story, and then And then it seems like it's like from 25 until 35. It's like, oh, he's kind of just like a grown kid now. It's like, where do you fall into this story of like you're not quite yet this sort of leading man that that they want, and you're too old to be the kind of coming of age teenager. So yeah, like the fact that when I was 26, I booked this evil monster million-year-old transdimensional creature. Was like, okay, and I was like, oh, well, at least I hope I'm not typecast as this guy for the rest of my life.
I don't think you have to worry about that. Yeah,
but yeah, it's a very bizarre career path, I think, and it not in a million years, if you asked me in the as you were saying the first time we met on the set of Divergent,
you couldn't imagine this. You can't chart this out.
Like where's where are you going to be in 5 years? And same goes for like again, just like the more you try to plan and figure out what your life actually looks like, the wrong you seem to be, or totally. and so on. So yeah, it's been great, and again, like Villains, who premieres September 20th, is a character that's pretty much as far away from Pennywise as you can go, and yeah, like I hope that people are capable of differentiating the clown from the man.
Well, they will, because you're not recognizable. Well, that's the key. Like, I mean, I'm sure you've been around like people having conversations about Pennywise or it without them even realizing it's you. Maybe
not really,
okay.
but yeah, for sure. Like there's I think if you don't look up what I actually look like, and you just watch the movie, I hope that you wouldn't spot the killer clown of in me walking down the street. But so yeah, and it's bizarre. One of the bizarre career path, and having this sort of the vehicle that launches you. I certainly could never have predicted, and here we are. So I hope that now I can just try to do more mundane roles for a little bit, and maybe maybe a
rom-com,
more be a rom-com, something more relatable, and but yeah, but I guess like the more I try to plan or foresee what it's going to be like, the more wrong I seem to be. So
in a good way. Well, if the last 5 years are any indication, then the next 5 years are going to be totally unpredictable.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
the best way to be for an actor, or maybe for anybody. Thank you for stopping by today, despite the fire alarms. Apparently, hopefully the building's not burning around us when we exit this office.
Yeah. No, hopefully we'll survive.
But congratulations on both it, but also, of course, Villains. As you said, it's out September 20th. Great piece of work for very high quality actors. Just clearly enjoying themselves in kind of like a weird genre mashup. So people should support it, because it's got your money already. Let's support Bill's other passion project, Villains, right?
Yeah, no, I absolutely think so. And it's one of those films where, again, Bobby and Dan, the filmmakers, they wrote it. It's a story made with so much love, with very little money, and unfortunately, like these types of films tend to just get swamped by the likes of it, these like big blockbuster and popcorn movies that whenever you can sort of support the indies out there and their theatrical releases is a good thing, and it's a fun movie to see in the theaters. It's,
totally, I'm sure
it's the less you know about it, the better. But I think you'll enjoy the ride.
Totally, we've given them just enough of a teaser.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you so much for having me on, man.
See you, Bill.
And so ends another edition of Happy, Sad, Confused. Remember to review, rate, and subscribe to this show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm a big podcast person. I'm Daisy Ridley, and I definitely wasn't pressured to do this by Josh.